Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Robbie B, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Stephen Four. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog. Great to be here.
Yo, absolutely. We've missed the slow, smooth jazz of Robbie B the last 2 weeks.
And up next, some bongos. No, it's great to be back, guys. I'm greatly reports of my demise were highly overrated. I was here both in spirit and secretly lurking.
Would you say that it's been a long time? You should have left us without.
I should not have left you without a dope beat to step to. But I'm back.
Robbie B, you definitely know now, since you've got, nobody does the slow jazz better than you. You've literally got to come in hot one time with like Good Morning Vietnam, that type of stuff.
I probably could, because like I feel like he doesn't hit the upper notes. So like I feel like I could do that. I feel like we have the same vocal range. Obviously,
basically you're the same person.
Yeah,
same person.
Yeah,
zero differences.
If you haven't seen them in the same room together, they're the same person.
Both play Games Workshop games, obviously.
Yep. Well, you guys know a lot of things happened over the last 5-6 days, right?
Yeah, Kenny, you made it back alive. At least I think you've made it back alive from Sin City LVO.
Las Vegas Open 2017. Me and the legendary Mike Haspel, who is in fact the author of Graveyard Shift. We were there. Lots of handies, lots of hugs. We met lots of people. We will do a roll call here later in the show. But we also got to reconnect with a lot of old friends. Marcus Parkus. I'm not going to say I know him, but he did touch me on the shoulder once.
Yeah.
I did not say I knew the man, but he did touch me on the shoulder once.
We also have some amazing shirts that hopefully Brian can get back to the Beats Lab in time for the next battle report. Courtesy of Marcus Parkus.
Oh,
we got some fun stuff. If you guys don't know who we're talking about, Mark Parker was an OG legend of the competitive scene, winning 5 GTs.
Seven
GTs back in the day, all the way from 3rd edition all the way up to like 5th edition or something.
And the legend grows. I want everybody to know that in 2 years from now, it will be 9.
Still 7.
It'll 5 years from now, we're going to be at 10 or 11.
Sick burn. Still 7.
Still 7 5 years from now.
Not going to win it.
Sorry, Mark.
Mark's not here to defend himself, so yeah, we can say whatever we want. No, I'm gonna tell a little story so we can get the juices flowing about Mark and I. So Mark Parker is 48 years old, and I'm 34 years old this year. This and next month, practically. We've been playing 40K together since 1999 when I was just like 17 years old or some shit, just in high school. So definitely we have, long friendship, playing games competitively. He's one of those first guys in 3rd edition who just tabled me week after week and was like, you need a rhino. I'm playing like an all walking around Space Marine army. Like, this is the shit. Was not the shit. So
it was shitty is what it was.
There was feces involved. And so, we have a long relationship. So years ago, I don't even know what started it. We kind of started this unofficial game where we sneak up on each other and attack each other. Non-lethal from behind at conventions when we spot each other. So I think that all started at Wargames Con many years ago. And then it's escalated. Like, he attacked me, then I attacked him. It went on for years. And by attack, we mean like try to choke each other from behind. Try to get him in someone getting someone in an old OG sleeper hold. Not even a real true rear naked choke, but like, Jake the Snake Roberts, style. Got to get him in a sleeper hold. It's how it's gone for years. And it was his turn. It'd been so many years in between attacks that I basically forgotten the attack was coming. Sitting there, hanging out with Mike Haspel, getting ready to film a little Facebook Live for you guys. Bending over. He always likes to wait for me to like do something so that it makes it more advantageous to him. I mean, last year he caught me rolling dice, or years ago caught me rolling dice. And so I've successfully defended every single one of these attacks, and progressively with more embarrassment on his side. This year was by far the biggest beatdown he'd ever received. He had it all figured out. New angles of attack, everything, new geometry. And so he waited for me to be bending down into my new Table War display tower from tablewar.com. I'm grabbing one of my cookie sheet magnet trays out, sliding it out. So now I have a precarious unit of models magnetized to a cookie sheet as I'm fully bent over. He's like, now he's fucked, you know? And his new sleeper hold was actually a Steelers windbreaker, Garado, that he had, where he slung it over my neck like a jump rope, basically, and it immediately twisted 180 and then started, like, you know, trying to hoist me up over his shoulder, like hanging me. That's the level that we're at now. That's the escalation level of, you know, coming up behind somebody and trying to choke him to death. That's the level we're at now.
At least a solid couple shades of blue need to be happening before you give up.
Yep, absolutely. So he's completely got his, you know, the models, and he knows that I'm really fast. I know how to get my chin tucked. And so he's like, that's why he thought the grotto would do it, because I wouldn't be able to sense his presence, because I can sense his presence. That's our relationship. I got my chin down just in time. So I'm blocking this windbreaker, but it's sliding under my chin because it's a windbreaker that's been spun around, cooled in on itself. And I'm holding the cookie tray, and I'm like, what is happening right now? And I can feel the leverage. And he's a strong dude. He does Spartan races. He's fit, captain in the army for years. But let me put this out there. If you guys have never seen us stand next to each other, one of us is 280 pounds, 6 feet tall. One of us is 180 pounds, 5'9.5".
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you guys figure out which is which by the end of the story. So what had happened is that as I realized now he's going to successfully choke me, I bend back down, because now he has me standing totally straight now, because he's got that force on me. So I put the cookie tray down on the table. Mike Haspel was there. You can corroborate this. Dirty Sheets with Skeets was watching. Gareth was watching. About 70 other people were watching. Then I just tucked down my shoulder, you know, to bring it back, just so I can create some separation, so I can, like, get my fingers in there so I won't choke. Unfortunately, what had happened was, when 280 pounds at the 6 feet tall level quickly snaps down against all the force that you have that you're exerting, and you have these windbreakers wrapped around your wrists to the point where you're, like, not even using grip anymore. What happens is a 180-pound man who's only 5'9" got flung over my shoulders, and all I saw is a man crashing to the ground in front of me.
That is so awesome.
And of course he springs right back to his feet, just gets right back on his feet. He's like, oh shit, it's all good, and limps to his chair.
Yeah, let me sit down for a minute.
Hard limps to his chair, because he actually has an old meniscus injury from being a badass for so many years, and had to sit down in a chair immediately. I had to give him
like, yo, I'm good. Nobody saw that. Don't any of y'all 100 people ever tell anybody else that happening.
And so the sad thing is that was Thursday as we all got in there, and he now had a knee brace on until Sunday.
Oh, that's the worst.
So I'm just like, when we say, hey, find us, let's kick it together, that's the level that we kick it at now.
And that has been happening. That is stories that will happen and continue to happen for tournaments still to come, you know, friendships and bonds that are made. Absolutely. Dude, you know, just to talk about, you know, Adepticon real quick, I am so excited to see my man Bruno from Canadian Land. You know, there's just random people that you will meet, make bonds with, kick it with, have a beer with. Max from Canadian Land, you know, like, that you only get to see every once in a while. You reminisce, have some stories, and then move on. I mean, it's really good times. That's awesome. Mark Parker, I'm literally about to call you in the morning and talk some junk.
Yeah, I have to admit, hearing that story reminds me of the time Mark Parker initiated that sort of relationship with me about 5 years ago at the ATC. And so he initiated the attack. And basically what happened was I screamed like a girl and I fell down like a sack of potatoes.
yelling rape the whole time, and literally he almost got arrested.
So
Mark Parker almost got arrested.
I never initiated the attack back on him because I pretty much know.
You're like, I'm putting a hard stop to this.
We're done.
Yeah. So you started this game. Now I know that if I never return the attack, the game is over.
Yeah. And that's actually where I'm at with it now. It's like, Mark, I don't think you got what, 1-2 more years left in you. So basically I've said, like, we got this has to stop when you turn 50. So I'm just not going to return the attack until after you're 50. So then it's over. So the game ends. Because I was like, the next time, I got to attack him next time? He'll be an old man by that time. I mean, that's not even fair. Like, I mean, I'm probably just going to like roll up like a wet napkin and try to sling it around his neck and let him just break free of it. Be like, how did you break my best attack? And just let him have that one.
Oh, that's like that time when like you finally get in that fight with your dad and you realize you're like stronger and better than him. Not that I've ever had this with my father, of course, but if I did, I'd be like, oh man, you got me good. You still got it in you, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that happened to me years ago when I was visiting South Florida, visiting my dad again. And he immediately, a very similar sort of Rob's last encounter with his dad, conscripted me for this yard work. He had actually been waiting to like, yo, we're going to dig all these holes to plant all these, I come to his house and there's like all these like trees he bought from the nursery just laid out in his yard. And I was like, wait, what? so I'm out there digging holes. And then he sneaks up on me, very Mark Parker. But my dad, being a gangly ass 6'4" skinny dude, with literally no training whatsoever, basically got instantaneously put into a gorilla press and was screaming very Rob Bear-like, you can't hurt me. Who's going to take care of your mom? Who's going to take care of 40 kids now?
Oh, that is hilarious. All right. So I have a story, something like that real quick, Kenny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm anxious.
Yeah. So one of the best shapes of that I was in my life was like 2003-ish. Like before I broke 200, I was like 195 of like skin, bones, and muscle. Before the fat came on, and then you work out, and then you get bigger and you look bulkier. But one of the best, strongest of my life, And at this point in time, I'm like 18, 17, 18, somewhere in that range, and I'm like, yo, okay, nobody tell me shit, this is what I do, going back. So we're actually in Florida. Did one of our last big family Disney trips and everything. And my dad, my mom, and my brother were all hanging out in the hotel room, getting ready to leave. And so I work out 5-6 days a week. I'm killing it. I'm like, Dad, I literally get away from me. We're just joking back and forth, And then I was a dad for real. Like, I am literally 100 times stronger than you. There's no way that you could beat me at anything. Like, or you're not going to beat me right now and everything. So we're laughing, joking. I'm like, you're old, this and this. And he's quiet. And I'm sitting down on the bed watching TV, and he comes around the corner, doesn't say anything. Literally cold. I'm talking about old man power, strength, just slaps me right in the chest. I go flying. I'm sitting on a hotel bed, literally fall into the little crevice that's in between the bed and the wall, the little walkway area. Yep. Nothing I can do about it. Within seconds, he has jumped on me. Now, at this point in time, Dad's probably like 42, not old, not young. I'm talking about punches the wall right above my head like a solid 4 times. And he looked down at me. He said, I don't care how many weights you push. It ain't never going to be enough to beat me. and I got up and I was like, you right. I ain't gonna say nothing else. So you got me.
Yep. So. See, that's a very traditional story. That's a very classic encounter. Yep. Unfortunately, my dad worked the night shift, driving trucks for 35 years and didn't. So if his physical strength, he had his Letterman and debate team.
Yo. Absolutely.
The brain is a muscle too.
It is, and his brain kung fu is real strong. But a lot of, but a lot of that brain kung fu doesn't come into play when it's all out physical roughhousing.
Yep, brute kung fu.
So 3 different dad stories, 3 different walks of life. But it's time to talk about moms for 1 second. The iciest mom in 40K.
The classiest, iciest 40K of all 40K moms.
The rickest of all Rick 40K moms. 40K Sue, it's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, 40K Sue.
All right. Now that we got that out of the way, Mom. Rob, do we have any news?
Yeah, I feel like we should just talk more about non-40K stuff, and that way your brother will like our podcast better.
Yeah, because it's all for you, David.
This is all about the Booster fans. No, yeah, we got some great stuff, and G-Dub's got some stuff on the way. Go figure, right? For next week, but this week there's only 2 count them, 1, 2 big releases. Of course, the Triumvirate of Ynnari and the fantastic new Aeldari Gathering Storm Fracturing of Biltan Book 2. Of course, we all know what's coming in Book 3, but we're not going to talk about that yet because it doesn't exist until next month. Then it'll exist. Then it'll come into being and we'll talk about it. But so $50 for the Gathering Storm 2 book. If you want the Triumvirate, I believe it's $75. It's $5 less than the previous Imperium one. Now, coming next week, though, if you're all about some Age of Sigmar, well, now is your time to rise because the Stormcasts are getting their new Ranger unit for $60. And apparently what they're doing is they're going back and they're reboxing. They're taking some of the squads that were 5Zs for Sigmar, for Stormcast rather, and they're making them 10Zs. So you're going from units that were $50 for 5 now to units that are $62 for 10, which, I mean,
what?
Somebody check the math on that.
Yeah, GW has not done that in a long time.
So they're doing that with 2 different units. And then the prosecutors, those crazy ass wing sort of things, those guys are 3 to a box, are going 6 to a box for $74, which from 60 to 74 for an extra 3 dudes. Again, math. I feel like that's value.
Holy shit.
Yeah, are they doing that for any other armies? For
Not yet.
Sigmar? Oh, okay, gotcha.
But see what I touched on a little bit in the webcast. What I was really excited is because I'm starting to see that kind of prophecy, that personal gut feeling prophecy I had, back when they started dropping all the Exterminatus and things. I guess that was in Deathstorm box. That was like late 2014. I was like, they're gonna have to re-release Codex books to keep up with all the material they're putting out in supplements. And here we go. We're starting to see that for the very first time, except for albeit Age of Sigmar, which is only 2 years old. They're coming out with a new Stormcast Eternals battle tome, which contains all the war scrolls and the battle tomes and the battalions that came out in all of the content since the release of Age of Sigmar for $40. So they're kind of like going back and updating the stuff that came out before the General's Handbook and that are coming out now as these splash releases with all the material in the book, which I could easily see. Like, wouldn't it be dope if we got a Tyranid book that had all of the stuff?
All the new stuff. Absolutely.
Right.
And that's exactly my lead in, like thinking, sharing a brain for sure on that, Rob, of like, I'm like, why isn't my Skaven getting this? Why isn't Tomb Kings? Why isn't all these other armies that I really want? But you want to know what is I would love for GW to go back and do exactly what you just said. Throw all this, update it all, put it all together. So, even though it's not my army, I'm always letting everybody know, as long as someone else is getting as long as it's cool shit, I can appreciate it. So even though it's not something for my army and I'm not going to play Stormcast Eternals, but I can definitely respect GW for doing this. And obviously, not only are they repackaging the rules so it's easier to come up with and updating them, they're literally simultaneously giving ridiculous deals. I mean, that's kind of unheard of at the same time.
Yeah, and we started seeing it, like Age of Sigmar started out price point a little high, I feel like. But now it's really starting to come full circle because some of the stuff they put out, when they re-put out, like say they put out the Archaon stuff, right? They would put out Chaos Warriors in like 10 packs that were previously you would get 5 guys for like 40 and now you get 10 for 50. So they started retroactively doing that as they started realizing it. But now to go back and see the original IP, like the Stormcast that they created for Age of Sigmar, now coming down to that interesting price point, it's a good trend. And, speaking of cool shit too, they now are putting out a pack of War Scroll cards, those game aids that I've been screaming about. We want the game aids for years. They're putting those out. They're coming out with a pack of 31, what they call large format cards. Each features a War Scroll from the new battle tome. And that you can use the cards, just put them on the tabletop or whatever, just like War Machine does, Hordes, all that stuff. And then there's 2 sheets that come in that set that feature pop-out markers to help you remember things like, even the basics, Inspiring Presence, Battle Shock, things like that, but also special abilities with some of the special units inside that rule set. So for $25, I'm going to buy the crap out of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. $25 is well worth it.
How would you like that for Tyranids? Like you get a pack of data cards with all their psychic ability little tokens that are punch out things. How would you like that?
Yeah, it's definitely taking it to the next level. Like I was never, have to admit, they have always come out with those cards, those, for different army psychic abilities. I'm like, nah, not really me, right? Until I started playing my Warcon. I'm like, I want this, give me the Scutari rules, or the cards, give me the AdMech ones, give me as many other things that I can do to help keep up with things. And that's exactly what you need when you're playing Age of Sigmar as well. Who needs a check, who needs this. A lot of the things have blessings and I'm calling them blessings and maledictions, but that are buffs. Yeah. That is stuff that they need markers and stuff for. So no, I fully support that, and I would love if I think this is a good basis for, if we're seeing it here, it is only a matter of time before we see this creeping into the other different Age of Sigmars and into 40K.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a lot more, because we're seeing these rumor posts or rumor engine posts that look like a lot of dwarf stuff could be on the way. So we could see another faction for Age of Sigmar. And we also have Dark Elves, the Shadowkin, on the horizon as well. So who knows what we're going to get and what kind of, air quotes bundle deals and game aids are on the way. But I'm very hopeful that it's going to be sweet. I'm very optimistic as to the future of that.
Well, I know we just blew through our Age of Sigmar talk that we try to get in every week, but I would like, Robbie B, how about next week or the week after or so, we talk about maybe some Age of Sigmar competitive lists. Lucas and I have been talking, and there is some really gross stuff coming up. And, a lot of times, and even the battle reports we've done together, it's not necessarily the most competitive. So maybe we could look at going down how deep 40K or Age of Sigmar can go.
Did you guys take a look at the winning list at LVO for Age of Sigmar?
No, what was it?
Yeah, Stormcast Eternals.
Yeah, I could easily see that. They're
not surprised. Absolutely.
Yeah. But not the standard, like, teleport and charge you turn one shenanigans that people play.
They're super shooty too.
No, it's all shooty. Yeah, that's actually what would win.
From what I understand, it was our boy Andrew, actually, that we, from back in the day, Andrew Steffenfield. Is that his name?
Battlefield?
Yeah.
The trucker guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Batman.
Yeah,
Batman.
Absolutely. I knew that he won. And I saw it on Facebook.
He was like basically Death Star, like, running around with basic troop unit that was like two upper rollable, hitting on two, basically like a classic Death Star style of playing, but which I think caught a lot of people by surprise. I was talking to David about it earlier today because he's real tight with Andrew, and people just didn't see it. They thought it was a soft list because it wasn't the traditional stuff people were doing. But it was actually it was all defense, and Death Star brought some of that 40K style in and beat Ben Mohil.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like he beat some people. I think the early word out of the UK was like, oh, Americans just have soft lists.
Is what leave it to Batman.
Yeah. Well, the key, and I know me and Jesus talked about this when we were doing the battle reports. If you can get those +1s to hits and those +1s to your saves and start stacking that with abilities, you can create a battle line to engage your foes with, while the other stuff kind of branches out and takes objectives or hops over the line if it has flight and goes after stuff. And that really seems like it might be a very Romanesque way of conducting battle, where they would, set up those lines and everything would revolve around the lines. They never really tried to go over the lines, but you kind of get what I'm seeing. Yep. You create this kind of sweeper thing to go out and push into things and just lock it down.
Like, I don't know a lot about AOS combos, because all I know is from what I edit on the battle reports. So I don't know the names, the formations, or whatever whatever the rules. But from talking to David and who talked to Andrew, all I know is that it's not the normal Stormcast style of play, and he won the whole thing with it. And also But also they had real hobby scores. Their AOS was super, like GW put on a great show with it. There was like literally great hobby scores happening all over the place. So it was actually very similar to what we do, bringing hobby back.
I love it. That's the only way to play Age of Sigmar, in my opinion. Like it's such a good game. It's got such such awesome new universe, such awesome new sculpts, you know, and now it's, you know, I got all this included value in it. I'm really digging it. And Luke's, you know, you've been talking with Juice, you've been talking with Lucas about he's running them Seraphons, and I saw those that one time I came over in that afternoon. Like they were all laid out on the table, and I never realized how cool the new Lizardman models were until I was like, wait, these are the new Lizardman models?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I was like, these are amazing looking.
Yo, it is unreal, and even like it's the old sculpt, but it's the skink, the one of the clan dudes, you know, is sitting on his throne, and then the upgraded super badass skink is, and I don't even know if I'm using the correct term. If it's a
Slan.
Slan, that's what it is. I'm sorry. The upgraded badass Slan is an undead dude.
Oh, Lord Croak.
Yo, it is literally, yeah, Croak is literally, you look up and pick up the model and you're like, oh my God, this is cool as shit. It is a skeleton of the other model. It is the undead it is so pimp. Like I fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, dude. Like there's so first off, I looked at the you can take the model obviously out of his like throne there. And I was like, there's so many applications for this throne. And then I was like, wait a second, this isn't the same. And he's like, nah, dude, that is the undead version. And you put them right side by side, like literally like chest cavity, you know, sunken in, like shoulders. Like I was like, oh my God, like shout out for an old ass sculpt to be so fresh. Like it literally, it was so fresh to me that I talked to him about it. And obviously I'm talking about it here. Like it was memorable. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, that's cool. You know? But so the whole concept, I know we talked about before, but the Slan and all these guys have dice manipulation.
Yeah.
Dice manipulation. Kenny, I just want to get a real quick Q&A. Is this good or bad? You have the ability to manipulate any dice rolls you want. On average, this army will give you 4 to 6 rerolls in a single turn.
No, well, let me put it this way. In 40K, I'll pay every bit of 300 points for Fate Weaver to do 1 in my turn, 1 in your turn.
Yeah. So that's absolutely right. So that's exactly what I said.
What if one of these abilities allowed you to take, if you rolled a certain amount of dice, allowed you to take an extra turn?
Yeah. So this is the math. So we sat down, no lie, right hand. So we sit down and because you stack the combo together, you get 4 dice. And if you pick up 4 dice and you roll, there's a chart that depending on what you roll, you get, right? Well, if you roll 3 6s, you get an extra turn when you're done with yours. Doesn't matter where you're at, you just get an extra full turn. So you use every turn, you sack for the most part 4 of your dice, or 2, if you get on your first roll, you get 2 6s, pick up those other 2 dice. If you connect with one of them, you get another turn. And you only burn 1 reroll, you know, or 2 rerolls. Like, so you're saying reliably, you know, I can't remember the math. I sat down and we were doing it. And some people are going to be like, oh, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. Right into God. I picked up the dice. First roll, I picked up 2 of my 4 dice for 6s, picked up those other 2 connected. I said, all right, dog, first roll, obviously this was luck, right? Would you agree? He said, yep. By turn 4, I did it again. By turn 3 of the next game, I did it again. By turn 4 of the following game, I did it again. So if it was a 3-round tournament, every game that went 5 turns, I picked up an extra turn in that game.
You literally win games in Age of Sigmar if you get to take an extra turn.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So let's go down this rabbit hole. I go first, you go, right? Then the dice rolls. I'm at the bottom of the turn. So now we have to roll off to see who goes next. I win that roll. So now I get back-to-back turns. Now during my second phase, or when this happens, I get an additional turn. So I get 3 turns back-to-back-to-back.
You can possibly triple turn somebody.
Triple turn somebody is a real thing with this.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I see you guys zoned in on the best result on that chart.
Yes. Yep. Pretty much. He was like, dude, but if you get a 5, 2 5s and a 6, that's good. You get this and this. I was like, oh, word. That sounds cute. Oh, yeah, that's good. Screw all that. Fuck all that. I want 4 6s. You know, I want 3 6s. That's it.
Dude, that's so
every time.
I did see some amazing Age of Sigmar Lizardman armies while I was at LVO. One of them I saw got nominated for Best Army. It looks fucking fabulous. So definitely there was some lizard man gangstiness being represented. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Matter of fact, get up with Andrew later and try to pick his brain on what. Obviously, since he just won a major event and everything else, like what are
I think it's
the
the
highest layer?
biggest AOS event in North America, I think, to date.
Yeah,
Yeah, like 100 people, 200 people, or something.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Way to go.
So speaking of LVO, stuff happened.
Did you go to LVO, Kenny?
Games were played.
I did, and before we get any kind of synopsis, let's do a quick shout out. Me and Mike Haspel met a lot of people, a lot of handies and hugs, and we tried our best to remember everyone's names and something about them. So I'm gonna do my best right now to relay on behalf of Mike Haspel this list of shout outs. And if we miss you, we're sorry. Hit us up on Facebook, remind us. First, right out the gate, my main man Ashley, all the way from Australia with 15 other Australians, came out. Like literally, these guys are flying 20 hours to LA and flying from LA to LVO. These guys are like going to a day in the past. when they fly to us, it's crazy. And so Ashley, he brought us some Tim Tams and some Vegemite from Australia. Me and Mike Haspel ate all the Tim Tams in our room because we're fat. My man Dale, Alexander, Corey. We got Kevin and Sean, people down from JJ's in Colorado Springs. Big shout out. Steve and Elena. Tom and Abe from back in the Durham Raleigh days.
Tom, Paul Allen.
Yeah. Like these hilarious.
Abe. Miss those guys.
Yeah, I miss Abe and Tom, obviously hilarious dudes. My man Dylan, Bruce, he's a doctor. We call him doctor. Dude literally said we saved his hobby, that Long War did. We have, of course, Kelly Freeborg. She's a rising painter on Twitter. She's crushing it. She was out there showing people the gangsterness that is her paint jobs. Chris Metzen, Michael Gilmartin, Ken, Josh, Eights, Tanner, all the Blizzard crew. We got to hang out with them. We were lucky enough to have some drinks with those guys, pick their brains about the status of games. That was a great night. We obviously, like I said, we have way more. Obviously, big shout out to Frankie and Reese for putting on the biggest singles event in the history of Warhammer 40K since the dawn of time. And to everyone else who came by and got a handy.
Or a hug.
Both usually. Same time.
Handshake.
Always. So yeah, roughly 500 people. I think the total number, guys, was about 475 on round one. Ready to go.
What a great number.
That's a lot of people.
Crazy amount of people. The terrain was beautiful. Lots. We're talking every building with no windows on the bottom floor, like we've always talked about. So we had real line of sight blocking terrain, real terrain features, real ruins. I mean, literally just on point. There was some hard shit there, guys. Though there was, I think we did a quick round, a quick circuit. I think we saw more Riptide wings than anything. Billions of Eldar jet bikes and web spiders, tons of war convocations, billions of Gladius strike forces, more renegade chaos armies than you'd think. Hey, spoiler alert, Renegade won LVO.
Yep.
Lot. I think we saw 16 Magnuses, fully painted Magnuses, and they all did well. Every Magnus. So there's, a lot of stuff going on. And of course, you guys remember we talked about I was playing Nurgle, all Nurgle, Plague Drones, Renegade Knights, 6 troop choices, escape patch. As tough of a list as I can make in the confines of like no psychic powers, keeping it all demons and and having close combat oriented knights. I felt like I did a great job. I said I wanted a winning record. I got it. 5-4 on the weekend. Went 3-3 in the big tournament, losing to my man Julio with a gangster Eldar army, pretty much a mirror of last year's winner. Tons of warp spiders and jet bikes. 6 units of jet bikes. I think like 20 warp spiders in the Forge World Wraith Knight. Other things of various levels of power in the list. Lost to a Bark Star which was also incredibly popular. Our friend Gareth just missed top 8 with his Bark Star, but we saw so many Bark Stars, which is one of the most aggressive Death Stars in the game right now.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it in your local scene, Bark Stars, Gene Sealer Colts, Magnuses, they're coming to a tabletop near you.
Hilarious. On that same note, G-Set Cult did not do what we thought it was going to do. He did. I heard lots of stories of Eldar armies not carrying and getting completely crushing G-Set Cult.
Wow.
I guess it's a lot more factors, and who goes first, who goes second, what's the terrain look like, what's the objective, things like that. So I mean, they were out there and they were definitely crushing some people. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as big of a deal as we suspected. And now that Inquisitor Greyfat, because practically every game I played against somebody with Tau or Eldar had found a way to sneak in some Sisters of Silence or something else into their list.
Mm-hmm.
So that means Inquisitor Greyfax is coming next with
yes, Shadowfax definitely shuts down,
especially because they said the Servo Skull thing still counts. So if you take Inquisition with her and you have 3 Servo Skulls, I mean, you can actually make it a really, really tough time.
It was actually a tactic I was just talking about on the phone this morning, was where with my Warcon, Warcon does really good against Gene Stealer Cold anyway, just because of our ability to do a lot of initiative 10 attacks, and whatnot. So, but either way, I was like, well, if I have Codiez and I have Servo Skulls and I'm going against Gene Stealer Cold Army and I win the roll to go first, I'm just going to deploy all my Servo Skulls in their deployment zone. So they have to infiltrate close to me. And I literally pop a couple doctrines and table them turn 1.
And I heard a story similar to that from many G-Steel Call armies. Obviously not with the Inquisitor, but with Servo Skulls and season initiative shenanigans. Like for example, here's something people forget about. So all the Bark Stars that were there, they all shit on the G-Steel Cults. Because every Bark Star is basically a 50-man Fenrisian Wolf unit with all the second powers plus Samael and Azrael. And everyone forgets Azrael's Warlord trait is +1 to seize. And, it only takes a little bit more shenanigans to make that rerollable.
True story.
So there was a lot going on for the G-Sealer. They did well, but they didn't crush everyone else. So I played against this Bark Star. That was exactly like if you guys don't know, basically 50 dudes. They're going to have all the second powers. What you're looking at is 3 up invulnerables or rerolls on a 54-man unit. That's just hits and run all day, every day. So I lost to an Eldar, lost to a Bark Star. Beats, and this is funny, is like now you're like, damn, there's some tough armies out there. And I didn't embarrass myself against anybody. Had models left. It's just that Eldar armies don't care about Night Titans, but they really can't kill my Plague Flies. So going into round 3, I'm like, oh, finally, just a classic Thunderwolf Wolfen spam army. This is going to be so much easier. And it's because that's a tough army, Wolfen and Thunderwolves these days don't play games. Company the Great Wolf with Wolfen. And so that was my first win, was getting to go up against, because I'm very familiar with how that works. I play against Mike Haspel all the time, and I know the ins and out. All our friends play Spizzle, so I got to win against that. So I finished day 1, with 1 and 2, not looking too strong. Right? Going into day 2, it's like, I got to win 2 games right now, or I'm going to finish this championship feeling shitty that I couldn't even break even. So listen to this despair. We're up against my man Gerald, tiny, skinniest Dutchman I know. Good friend of the show, by the way. And he's playing Riptide Wing, Void Shell Generator, Sisters of Silence, and Kelux's Assassin. Oh no, sorry, Kelux's Assassin, Void Shield, Riptide Wing.
Yo, so let's just put that in perspective. Waking up, all right, let me just shake the dust off from yesterday, played some hard lists, went 1 and 2. No doubt, today is the day. On this first opponent, I'm going to make an example. I'm hopefully going to get a nice, easy list. You're like, I just need a win. And you get 5 Riptides.
Five Riptides, Void Shell Generator, everything you can think of. Classic Riptide Ring, where they're in their it's a unit of 3 Riptides and 2 solo Riptides, because they're in units and that's how they work. So like a unit of 3 shooting you, double firing at you is brutal. So in the turn they double fire you, it's like 10 Riptides shot you. So don't forget. So like, that's a problem. And you've got the mix. You're saying the unit of Riptides has these types of weapons, and then the solos have this to pick off stragglers. So that way, and then you have the buff commander with the marker drones. So you can say, here's 10 marker lights to start it off with for all my Riptides. And also he had 2 Sky Rays, which is also like pretty classic. So 2 Sky Rays, 5 Riptides, buff commander, void shield, Helixes, right? So I'm like, oh my God, Gerald, are you fucking with me right now? And of course, that's when Steve Turner, the epic Black Blowfly, showed up, and he's like, well, I'm going to film this and post it like live updates so everyone gets to know it. Like, I was like, so everyone gets to see me get raffle stomped. God damn it.
Yeah.
And then the whole time, Steve Turner, like Emperor Palpatine, is like, no, I believe in you, man. It's going to be fine.
This is it. Don't worry.
Don't worry. And I was able to get good board position quick and was able to use a great piece of terrain that's at the table to take my time to set up the charges. Was able to like block line of sight to one knight, get aggressive with one knight, but also swarm him with the plague drones. So like, because the plague drones go like 20 inches on turn 1 because of the assault moves, and I use the escape patch to get the heralds linked up, knowing I'm not going to have 2 up cover because he's gonna take 2 up cover away from me and hit me with all 3 Riptides as a unit, and he can double fire. You see? Mm-hmm. So that's the tech. So now you have this straight up, plague drone. You have 2 plague fly units in this cover that he's going to be able to literally shoot me with 6 Riptides mathematically because of double fire with no cover, and be ballistic skill 6 while he's doing it. So, but one of my gifts I got was rerolling vulnerables, which is like my only defense in this situation. So I was able to get really aggressive with that unit, get really close to him, and aggressively poise with one of my knights while keeping the other one relatively safe. So basically he had to choose. He's like, damn, that plague drone unit's here. It's fast. I'll get another turn before his knights get to me. So he's like, so basically he's saving his double turn for the next turn. So turn 1, he just shoots me with just 5 Riptides, ignoring cover and blah, blah, blah. Or, no big deal. And all the smart system missiles ignore cover. And I was able to do some work because what have we said, guys? What's 5 up invulnerable? Rerolling 5 up invulnerable with a 5 up Feel No Pain.
2 up save, homie.
Basically 2 up invulnerable. So I was able to tank, make some saves, distribute wounds with Lookout Sirs appropriately, keep that drone star pretty strong, losing some drones, but still he didn't get first blood or anything or first strike. And he was like, oh shit, I did not think that was gonna happen. I thought I was gonna ace that unit. And so, but he's still saving his double turn, so like his double fire turn. So he knows my Night Titans are going to come out and crush out these 2 Sky Rays. And so I'm like, okay, maybe there's a chance I'm going to actually not embarrass myself against a Riptide wing. Oh, I'm feeling real good now. And Emperor Palpatine's over there. He's like, embrace the hate, embrace the rage. And so I come out, and so it's also or what's the one where you get something for Big Guns May Never Tire. So I also so I was able to immediately crush out the 2 Sky Rays, giving me immediately 2 bonus points on Maelstrom, right? And I'm like, that's huge. That might factor in. So I was able, but I had to take the bait. I had to crush out those guys because he was a buffer. And he admits he made a mistake not deploying the crew as a bubble wrap because he was trying to get to my backfield to take all the objectives on my side because I was doing that with Nurglings too, deep striking. He's like, damn it, I fucked that up when he saw that I was able to break through so quick. Get into his grill, connect on a long bomb 11-inch charge with my with the survivors of that drone unit. So I had 3 drones left. Detached the herald, linked up with the other fresh unit so I can have a 5-up guy to tank for them. We push forward. So that way he left that unit. Now I have fleet, right? Because you get fleet back when the guy with that fleet leaves. So I made these 3 drones. We're able to make contact on this 11-inch charge because of fleet to tie up his marker lights. So he still has the initiative 4 hit and run. I was like, you're telling me there's a chance that you're not going to be able to light my whole army up and ignore cover on everything.
And then peace out, yeah.
And so I crushed out those 2 Sky Rays, got my Maelstrom that turn, already up like $1 billion on Maelstrom. Come out feeling pretty safe about this drone star slide up in the cut because my whole plan is I'm going to make an 11-inch charge. He's not going to get his hit and run off. And I'm going to be making him for it. Now he has to shoot everything. He has to shoot 5 Riptides at 2 Night Titans. And my plan worked. Made an 11-inch charge. Failed his hit and run. Stayed in combat, had no marker lights, 5 Night Titans or 5 Riptides, and I had him separated on his piece of terrain. So like I would get cover on the side shield from 2 here, iron shield in the front here, and the same on the other. So literally, there was almost no way he can focus down. So he's basically like, all right, let's see what happens. So he brought 1 Night Titan down at 1 whole point. Didn't shut it down.
Wow.
So he actually didn't blow it up. Now I brought in 1. So this is the dream, right? 1 Night Titan, 1 Renegade Knight, Thunderstrike Gauntlet, Reaper Chainsword charges into the unit of 3. That's 1 unit together. We come in. He actually was able to build the bubble wrap now. Brought the crude in on the other side, so I couldn't get to the other the other Riptides. And he's fighting back now. He's going to do some work on the left side. This guy runs in there. This Night Titan runs in there. D's out 1 Riptide out of 3. Okay?
Just with the swords.
Just with the swords. So it was bad rolls, but I hit that 6.
Yeah, stuck it.
Slap 1 down, right? Then I was like, well, it's initiative 1. You pile in. He did his smash attacks. Okay, stomp. Literally 3 stomps. All 3 were able to touch both, hit a 6, took them both off the table.
Oh my goodness.
And then now he's in its backfield, and he's like, oh my God. And and then it just goes down from there. But my man Gerald's, literally, we're talking turn 3, no models left. So I got my big win against Riptide. Black flow fly there, being my Emperor Palpatine. I'm feeling so good now. I'm like, I'm on top of the world.
Yeah. And look, not to derail from the story, like to go back to your point of when you first walked up to the table and saw what people were playing. I mean, if you haven't walked up on 5 Riptides, double Skyham or Sky Rays, it is intimidating. You're like, are you kidding me? Like, did you bring every gun? Like, it's not like just like, I don't even care. Like walking up to the table and I see a Gladiator, like, yep, billion rhinos, billion dudes, got it. Like you're talking, it is intimidating as hell to see these big models, a shit ton of firepower. They've got every universal special rule there is. So, clutch win, homie.
He did eventually pretty much ace on my drones, but I was able to take all his models away. Got my next win against Flying Demon Prince Spam Army, made it rain 6s yet again, and then lost my final game on the day against another Eldar army. So I was able to get my 50-50 record, felt great. Didn't embarrass myself at that tournament versus all that competition. The Nurgle broke even on the day. We went on to the RT on Sunday, which was actually pretty genius how they did it. What they do is they take everybody basically who still wants to play, which was hundreds of people, and broke them into, 48-man tournaments. So we're basically playing our own tournaments because it's now this tournament is considered the first tournament of 2017 for ITC.
There's 40 first tournaments of the first round ITC. So what was cool was a bunch of people didn't show up in our bracket, and I was bracket 13, Haspel was bracket 12, just a number. And I was like, oh, how many guys are you missing? The same number we were missing. What up? I was like, you should merge our brackets. They did. So me and Mike Haspel were actually in the same 8-man tournament. And we didn't play each other by 1 point. It was such a close thing. That's awesome. And I only lost 1 game out of 3 there against a double swords list. So it was still did a good job there. Actually beat a Gladiator Strike Force, or beat a Demi Company paired with a Skyrim Annihilation Force. Actually beat that. That was really hard. Beat an Eldar army really hard by the skin of my teeth because of my Nurglings. Nurglings came through. So I didn't embarrass myself. Finished the whole weekend with a winning record. Felt great. It was a great feeling to actually pull off those wins, and made me feel confident. If you play it for the love, it'll all work out. Absolutely. And you did exactly what we talked about. You set a personal goal that you wanted to hit. We always talk about, especially at an event where there's 500 plus people or close to it, you're 1 in 500 chance of winning the tournament. Better chance of winning a scratch off. So you set a personal goal, you hit that goal, and that's awesome, dude. I appreciate that, man. It felt great. It was a lot of time. Like I said, it was super fun, man. We met so many people, drank so many adult beverages, got so chocolate wasted so many times. But now we're back. We're back in the Beats lab. It's time to work, decompressing, fixing the liver, making sure business as usual.
And we're back now. We're back on Twitch here. We got battle reports coming out this week. We got studio tutorials coming out this week, and now we got to look toward the next thing, the Long War doubles.
Adepticon. Cannot wait. It has been in the forefront of my mind
all day, but I think it's probably time to take a quick commercial break and talk about some Eldar.
Yep, no doubt.
Dear veterans, quickly, make your way to thelongwar.net and find out how to reap your hard-earned spoils of this long war. For our allies at secretweaponsminiatures.com have rewarded us all with an extra 10% discount on all Secret Weapon Miniatures merchandise. So stock up, dear veterans, and enjoy.
ElrixHobbies.com is your exclusive portal to upgrading your hobby. When you sign up at thelongwar.net, you gain an instant promotional discount good for 10% off at Elrix Hobbies. ElrixHobbies.com.
Dear veterans, quickly, make your way to thelongwar.net and find out how to reap your hard-earned spoils of this long war. For our allies at dicehead.com have rewarded us all with an extra 6% discount on all dicehead.com merchandise. So stock up, dear veterans, and enjoy.
And we're back. Rob, drop some Eldar bombs on us.
Yo, so I've been looking through, kind of scrying, so to speak, through a lot of these, spoilers and pictures, earthquake-ridden pictures. There must have been multiple earthquakes throughout the world this week when everybody was taking their pictures of the new codex, because very shaky, but that's okay. We're getting through it. We're getting through it. So it looks like this book consists of basically the Aeldari faction, and then you have some Ulthwé, but they also throw in the Ynnari faction as well. So it's a little confusing, and there's some stuff in here that I think we need to chat about real quick. Like, first off,
Wait a second, Rob. Did you just say the same name, or is it two different? Where's say the delineation? We've got Ynnari and Udnari.
Aeldari, which is Eldar.
That's Eldar
with an A and an I, A at the start and I at the end. And then we've got Ynnari, which are the undead you need kind of type deal.
Okay.
So those are two separate factions, but this is you're already starting to experience what I feel like is going to be a little bit of confusion on a lot of folks' parts from this book, because it seems like, just judging by the bits and pieces I'm seeing, that maybe stuff is laid out a little weird. So first of all, there's a cover sheet that says Forces of the Aeldari, and it says, hey, this book, it has a bunch of data sheets in it. First aid, you got Yvrain, you got the Vizark, and you got the Incarnate, which we already know about. And there's 5 new formations that include those 3 models as one formation, and then there's some other ones that you can field elements of, like Harlequins with Dark Eldar, with regular Eldar, et cetera, right? Supposedly, these all belong to the Ynnari faction. So they're saying it's Forces of the Aeldari being Eldar, right? So there's already a little bit of confusion because they're changing names on us, right? They're using Aeldari interchangeably as the word Eldar. So problem 1. Then it also says that unlike most units in 40K, Yvrain, the Vizark, and the Incarnate are new army list entries that can be included in any Eldar, Dark Eldar, or Harlequins detachment, regardless of faction restrictions. So have you ever seen that before? Like, imagine if they came out with Celestine and they're just like, hey, Celestine, yeah, I guess
that's basically what they said. I think that's
that and Belisarius.
Yeah, that's the new AOS.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Well, I suppose picking her was a terrible example, of course. But you get what I'm saying there. Like, this all kind of leads up to what we were saying, right? So then it goes into list some battle brothers, some allies of convenience, desperate allies, all that stuff that's just normal. But keep in mind that they're doing the same thing here. That you can basically plug and play this stuff, right? Now they specify in a shaded box. They're like, some of the rules represented in this book use the term Aeldari. This simply means Eldar, Dark Eldar, Harlequins, or Ynnari. So Ynnari are now a subset of the Eldar. So that's basically how they're explaining how to use special rules and stuff. So it's just something to kind of lead in. So maybe we're not all as confused as perhaps we will be when the book comes out, right?
No, I'm glad you said that because, sometimes we can just ramble on and keep going, and it's hard to track once all our words kind of blend in together. And just to kind of caveat with what you said about, we're talking about the characters. We didn't hit on it right now on the podcast, but if you guys have a chance, check out the webcast from tonight. Wednesday night's webcast is because we kind of dove in a little bit on what we thought independent characters, these strong independent characters like Bilbo Baggins call himself, and the Saint that are like, as Kenny put it, Age of Sigmar-esque, where they're very like 18 wounds for the Saint to actually put her down and all this. Bell is like, call himself is almost unkillable. Where this is kind of strange for us, but if you look at Age of Sigmar, that's exactly how they do things when you can't attach models to independent characters to other different units. So I just wanted to put it in perspective. When you said, when we were talking about it, I realized we talked about it, just not here on the podcast. Sorry, Rob.
No, I feel you. That those are good things to definitely mention. Now, when you go into the forces of the Ynnari, that's being specifically you need section. They have their own warlord traits. They have their own artifacts. They also have this new ginormous detachment, very similar to the Castellans one we saw in Gathering Storm 1, where you can loop in all of your Eldar, Dark Eldar, and Harlequins, from special characters to troop choices to elites to Lords of War, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, the Incarnate is a Lord of War. So the Incarnate, that big Slaaneshi avatar thing, is a Lord of War, along with the Wraith Knight, of course. So just something to keep in mind.
Do we have any stats of this guy yet, or not? That's still yet to come.
Nope, they've been spoiled. Here we go. We'll throw it out there. Weapon skill 9, ballistic skill 7, strength 6, toughness 6, 5 wounds, very similar to Baller Sarius. Initiative 10, not similar. Wow. 6 attacks, leadership 10. And 3-up save. Also Eternal Warrior, Fleet, Preferred Enemy, Slaanesh, Psyker Mastery level 3, Strength from Death, which is special rule, which we'll talk about. I think that's the one with stuff within 7. Nope, that's the Avatar rule. I actually don't know what that is right offhand. And then that whole Deep Strike, you can put it wherever and it can teleport around the battlefield, kind of whatever thing.
Is there a points cost?
275.
Wow. That is unreal.
With a sword that is strength of user, so 6 flat, AP 2, melee, fleshbane, armorbane, soul blaze.
Yeah, I just want you to know, guys that have seen the battle reports, and girls for that matter, who have seen the battle reports and have seen my kind of custom Optimus Trigon Prime, is what is coming to my mind right now, is because I pay 45 points upgrades to have weapons that give me shred and poison and all this, kind of like what this guy's getting for free anyway. My man rings in at like 315 points, and I am half the stat line that this guy is. And did you say it's basically a Slaanesh?
Preferred Enemy Slaanesh.
Oh, Preferred Enemy Slaanesh. Is that just a 3-up save or a 3-up invulnerable save?
3-up save.
Oh, okay. So
Eternal Warrior.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, it does have the demon special rules, so it does have.
So it's got a 5-up. It's got a 5-up invo. So yeah, and you said it's a Lord of War. It's not a gargantuan creature, is it?
Nope, it's just a dude. Oh, it is a monster. It's a monstrous. It's
monstrous creature, just not gargantuan.
Not no stomps, nothing like that.
Yeah, I just didn't know if all of a sudden we're saying it's got a 5-up invo and a 5-up feel no pain. But either way, this guy seems legit for 275 points. GW is coming out with all these characters left and right, and very aggressively.
What else does he have though? Because if he's only got a 3-up, 5-up, like does he? What other buffs does he have innately to him? Because I feel like every other Eldar army on Earth is just going to kill him with scatter lasers.
Well, you can heal wounds pretty easily. Anytime another Aeldari model is killed within 7, you heal back the wound on a 3-up.
Yeah, like at that moment.
Yes.
Word.
At that moment. Now, also, all friendly non-vehicle units with the Ynnari faction within 12 inches have the Fearless and Feel No Pain special rules from himself.
Wow.
Very Age of Sigmar.
A 12-inch Feel No Pain bubble?
Yep.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
And there's a way to buff this when a model is killed within 7. There's a way to buff that to 14.
Dog, I'm not gonna lie. This sounds like you're describing even just the 7 and 14 inches.
Yep.
Sounds like you're describing Age of Sigmar. Literally, we're talking about Lucas earlier, like we did. His slant or croak has a 7-inch range. If you put this slan guy with a banner next to him, it doubles his range for his psychic abilities, moving it to 14 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at his stat line, Croak this is very Age of Sigmar-esque.
Well, put a pin in that because I'm going to read you something else that's gonna trigger those. That's going to tickle those pickles right there. So you've got now. This is where it gets a little confusing because it says army-wide special rules for Ynnari, right? Take it as part of Ynnari or formation, which is those ones I talked about where you could take, Eldar, Dark Eldar, Harlequins, even the 3, the Triumvirate themselves have their own formation. So it says here, as a Ynnari, if you take any of those formations or the Reborn Warhost, which is the Castellan's version, the super battle formation detachment, like we saw in the first book, they all have the Ynnari faction in addition to their own faction. And this is a very important distinction because you will not read this. If you just flip through the book and you look at these formations, you're going to be like, oh, okay, that's cool. That does some stuff, whatever. If you don't go to the Forces Ynnari section, you won't see this rule. And this rule is very, very important. Now listen to this. Or I could just be making all this stuff up. But either way, I think it's important. The units with the Ynnari faction use the following special rules in addition to those presented in their codex. So now you're saying, if you're a Harlequin, if you're an Eldar, if you're a Dark Eldar, you now get the following special rules just for being in this formation or this super megazord detachment. However, and this is very important, units with the Ynnari faction lose the Ancient Doom, Battle Focus, and Power from Pain special rules if they have them. So think about that for a second. Those are very useful rules for both Eldar and Dark Eldar. Ancient Doom kind of sucks. It's just, I think it's hatred against Slaanesh.
Yeah, I think Power for Pain is really good, though.
Yeah, it's where you can basically get a Feel No Pain, among other things, very quickly for the Dark Eldar. So now you're taking away from these staples. Battle Focus is huge for Eldar, right? So, but here's what you get. You get access to the artifacts of Ynnari, which we might not have time to cover in this, but suffice to say, there's some really dope ones. There's some average ones. That's just the way artifacts go sometimes. But now you have this special rule called Strength from Death. Whenever a unit is completely destroyed within 7 inches of one or more non-vehicle units that consist of only models with this special rule, very important distinction, pick one of those units to make a soul burst action. You cannot pick a unit that's locked in combat, falling back on the ground. A unit making a soul burst action can do one of the following, even if it has already done so in this turn. Here's the big 3. The unit can immediately move as if it were your movement phase, which goes into say, excuse me, that's for the next thing. So you can immediately move as if it was your movement phase. Whatever that may entail that's legal for you to do, you can now do it. The unit can immediately shoot, and then in parentheses it says, or run, or turbo boost, as if it were your shooting phase. That's great for a lot of things, right? Like late tournament grabs, objective grabs, getting out of harm's way, going after things, dodging around night arcs, whatever. This is the one that's really interesting. The unit can immediately make a charge move as if it were your charge subphase. If they do, enemy units can fire Overwatch as if it were your charge subphase. A unit that makes a charge in the fight subphase, so they're already locked in, does so at the end of the current initiative step. So this is kind of like that Death Frenzy Wolfen thing a little bit. And once they have charged, the initiative step continues to resolve as before, including models in the charging unit. So you're basically getting an extra third of a turn almost for a unit. And a unit can only make a slow burst action once per turn. But I think just the ability to do it, you thought battle focus was bad, moving your stuff multiple times. Now you can not only move your stuff, but you could assault. You could.
So it's similar to a rule that like the Beast and Nurgle have, when like somebody assaults within X amount of inches of them, they can try to make an assault too.
Yeah, even if they were locked in or did a fallback for Age of Sigmar, they can run back in. It's
a sick rule. That's definitely a sick buff. Like I love buffs.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. That's pretty spicy. Like that's unlocks a whole new set of options. They can also choose the Revenant Discipline, which has some really super spicy psychic powers. I'm just going to drop one of them real quick. But I wanted to talk about the Warlord traits table. There's one on here that's particularly interesting. Number 2, the Warden of Forgotten Wisdom. If your Warlord is a Psyker, which, hey, guess what? Most Eldar are. You may select their powers before the battle begins rather than generating them normally.
What?
You get to what?
Yep.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna need you to say. I'm gonna need you to rewind that 1 second, and because what it sounds like you said is they can just do the old Severn Sloth tech.
Yep.
Well, I just say I want these powers. I mean, it kind of sounds like you just said that. But
that sounds like what you were saying.
I know that you didn't actually say that because there's no way. I mean, Eldar kind of needed it, so I mean, maybe I don't know.
I mean, they're very underpowered until this one Warlord trait came along.
Will you reread the Warlord trait one more time, please?
If your Warlord is a Psyker, you may select their powers before that battle begins rather than generating them normally.
So you can literally say, I want, I can't even remember off topic or offhand what the
whatever they could select.
Invisibility, summon demon, de-thirster,
Yes. And here and you're like, oh, okay, well that's not really that bad because
no, it's literally that bad.
Hey, these are just Ynnari and there's only like the you need stuff in here, right? Right? Is that what you're telling me? No, that's not what I'm telling you, because anything in the Reborn Warhost detachment, here's your HQs. Here's your fantastic lineup of HQs. Spirit Seer, Farseer, not Artok, that doesn't matter. You can't do it to Eldrad because he already comes with a Warlord trait, but you got Yvrain, you got the Vizar, also not a Psyker, never mind. Succubus, Hellsprex. No, so none of those matters except for the Spirit Seer and the Farseer for the most part. And the Warlock Conclave, which I guess technically can't be your Warlord either. But the potential
Farseer on a bike all day.
Yep, the potential for abuse is very high. Right there, I feel like. And actually it makes me wonder if Yvrain and them come with one of those already for their Warlord trait.
So I was just doing a little research. I think that's a good power.
If you get it, but remember too, if you're Ynnari and you're taking the whatchamajigger, the super detachment, I believe you get 2 rolls on this chart to try to nail that one.
Yes, I mean it's like obviously it's an amazing Warlord trait. Warlord traits don't break the game. They're just because you can't rely on them.
Mm-mm.
But it's great to have contingency plans for these things. Like if you're saying, hey, that's the one I like because I can do this. Awesome. But there's still 5 other things that you could have plans to use too.
Yeah, I mean, Eldar never in the history of ever had a really hard time getting their psychic powers to begin with, right? I feel like that's never been like a thing. Like, oh dang, if I had only nailed that XYZ psychic power, I would have run away with this game.
Yeah, instead of just mediocre, just won the game. Not that Eldar wins every game, by no means they don't. It's just that it's hard to make a bad army with them. That's the main thing. But it's literally like, I mean, the guy I played in the RT on day 2 was not playing a typical abusive Eldar list. He gave me one of the toughest games. He actually did more damage to me than the other Eldar players I played who had all the scatter bikes and billions of war spiders. He had war spiders, don't get me wrong. He had a Wraith Knight, don't get me wrong. But he was running like a super dope thematic, like whatever the Decurion is, where he had like literally 15 war spiders. He had 15 fire dragons, 15 striking scorpions. Okay, so it's like we talk about. Everything in that codex can be played.
I respect any Eldar player under the sun who brings 15 striking scorpions.
Played him in the last round at the RT. And so we're both playing for, both trying to get this win. And he also had 3 falcons. So he had the falcons where like they can deep strike and not scatter. So like basically it's a unit of 3 falcons that have the fire dragons in them. So they deep strike right here, and then 15 fire dragons get out that hit on 2s. And they have that doctrine where it's like an additional +1 to the damage chart. So it's +3 to the damage chart. So it's like literally like, man, we're here and 15 shots that hit on 2s and +3 to the chart. I mean, he had some teeth, but it shows you that like Eldar don't have bad units, because even the striking scorpion served a purpose in his army. It was a bait. It was to bait me into killing things. He still had a Wraith Knight, but he's running just a classic Wraith Knight with just the 2 huge flamers that you can pay for. Instead, he didn't have the D cannons. He didn't have that. He just had the 2 flamestorm size, flamers that are just strength 7 AP 4. Okay, that does some work to people. Okay,
yeah.
So I mean, he wasn't playing one. He had
especially and to be honest, in defense, like for people like, oh man, that's stupid. Why would he do that? Well, Kenny just displayed how amazing his tech is for the Falcons to just stick their landing and shoot 15 meltas. Like in my man's defense, he doesn't need any range D because he's got 1,500 seeker missile, fire pikes.
And also not to mention the Falcons get to shoot all their bright lights and stuff. I mean, he's
pulse laser.
Absolutely. So you had 15 war spiders still. Don't get that twisted. He still had 15 war spiders with a war spider autarch. So they were jumping around being assholes. He had 15 striking scorpions with stealth and shroud getting close to me to bait me into getting out of position so that he can deal with plague drone units in the positions he wanted to deal with them in, instead of like being in the middle of a building with 2 of cover. So he's like, these opportunities are too much for you to ignore, kind of stuff. And so he had this actually really thematic, when you really think about Eldar army, with all the aspects being represented. He was like, I can sacrifice the insane point efficiency of a jet bike for these striking scorpions because I still have 15 war spiders. I can sacrifice the insane point efficiency of maybe instead of 3 units of war spiders, like how a lot of people are running 25 war spiders. Instead of that, I can run these fire dragons inside this in these falcons. And falcons are really hard to kill still. Like they have all the shields, and he still had a Wraith Knight. He had all these powerful elements and some thematic elements. I would have said absolutely. There's no way I couldn't have said it was a bringing hobby back army. For sure, it was a bringing hobby back Eldar army. He's the only guy all weekend who killed all my plague drones.
Wow.
Like, right? I played all these hardcore. I played all these hardcore motherfuckers, all this crazy shit, and he's the only guy who actually killed all 10 plague drones and both heroes. And
that's a testament.
I only won the game because I brought 5 units of Nurglings that I was able to deep strike into positions I needed to be in, into cover. And so now that I did kill all those war spiders eventually, did kill all those striking scorpions eventually, killed a bunch of the falcons, did a bunch of stuff. He brought both Night Titans down, all 10 drones down, all my heroes down. All I had left literally was 5 units of Nurglings that were just, so now the game is over. I won Maelstrom by 1 point, and I was in position on the more objectives than he was. But he still had literally a Wraith Knight running around with 1 unit of war spiders. That was what was left in his army. Yeah, if we played this thing out to the end, like 9 turns of 40k, tables me every time. So I was like, this army is a true testament to Eldar. Eldar doesn't have to be played with all the jet bikes, all the war spiders, and the Wraith Knights. He played this super amazing thematic list and still, crushed every element of my army that was powerful. And I won by basically by just having objective secure units on objectives at the end of the game.
I think a lot of people forget how good the aspects really became. Like even Banshees are actually good and viable. Like everything in the Eldar book is good, but everybody takes, like you said, warp spiders and scat bikes.
So they take everything's optimized. Everything is. Striking Scorpions have stealth and shroud. They infiltrate. So like Striking Scorpions get in your grill, and you're like, well, I can't shoot these guys. And Mana Blasters, guess what? I don't like. I didn't like. Guess what? Plague Drones didn't like. They didn't like just here's a bunch of dice that just 4s equal wounds. You know what that sounds like, right?
Yep, a lot of dead Plague Drones.
That's every turn. Literally, it was crazy, and I loved it. Paint jobs were fresh. I was like, dude, literally, this would have been a perfect bringing hobby back list at our doubles event at Adepticon. I would have seen this guy. This guy would have had max theme scores, max paint scores, max. I could not see him not getting max con scores with this list. And it was so amazing. So like, that's what when we talk about Eldar and we roll our eyes, everything in that codex is playable. I would love to see people playing other elements of the army. And he did. Shit was so on point.
Well, there you go. It just goes to show you. The Eldar are still good, even if you don't take the ridiculousness. But I think overall this book is going to open a lot of eyes, especially just the stuff we were talking about with the comparisons we can make personally to Age of Sigmar, but also just the fact that it is almost got that end times feel to it with how they did the books for fantasy end times. It's very similar. It's a proven sales success. So they're almost emulating it here. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when the next book comes out and what if they keep following the same kind of path to market / rules package in those books there. So it's a lot of stuff to digest and figure out. There's a whole grip of Ulthway stuff we haven't even talked about. A lot of folks aren't talking about. We've got brand new units in the back of the book that have Webway Assault. They're just like, yo, we're here. We got guns. We're here. Poof, next to you. Like Eldar needed that, but they
do. But you want to know what? I hope that we see some, like with the Ulthway. I hope that we see I played Eldar back in the day, right? And we can say a lot of people play, I don't claim them now, but I played them and I played Beltan, right? And it was my joints. I loved all the different aspects. I put them all together and I played 2 Wraith Knights. 2 Wraith Lords back when it was the old metal sculpt when, the upper body and the 2 legs basically met at the same amount of metal that would equal, or pewter that would equal like a toothpick. They always broke off at the half. It was the worst sculpted model ever. But I ran those 2 in the Avatar. This was when the Avatar, just to show that I'm a true old Eldar player that I don't claim. This is the first time ever this has been. I've actually been ashamed of me being an old Eldar player. But when the Wailing Doom was nothing but a power sword. That's what his description was. Right? But so what but what I loved is with the Craft World Codex, it broke down all the different cool shit that you could do if you took Samhan or the Biotanner and this stuff. So I hope that the Ulthway, when we break that down, maybe next week or so, that we get some really cool shit just for them.
Yeah, and that's a good point you made. The Craft World book is almost like the Chaos Legions book that we always, or the Chaos 3.5 Codex that nobody talks about.
Yep.
It had great rules for Iandin, Sam Hain, of course. The Swordwind host of Biltan was in there.
Yeah, and actually, it's where we saw for the first time the Court of the Young King.
Yep, where you can just take a bunch of aspects in an army. Like, wait, all I can bring is I can bring Striking Scorpions, Fire Dragons, Banshees, and War Spiders, and that's an army. All my X-Arches. They were bodyguards to the Avatar. So I was walking around with I think my standard loadout was like double Banshee, double Striking Scorpion, and then I would throw in, depending on the points, I would throw in a Dark Reaper X-Arch.
So like if I always love those random shots, and he had the best armor.
Yep, they always look the freshest back. Them third edition sculpts they had just come out with.
I feel
Good
dirty.
times.
I feel dirty now. Like
You should.
the Eldars. No, that was the good old days.
Yes.
Either way, Kenny's
goddamn executioner blades. That's all I want. I mean,
Yep. And the acrobatic flip.
oh, I know. It was the infinite teleport to kill your Power Fist guy every time.
every time. You know who else had that was Drazahar, the Dark Eldar. It was actually the head lead bodyguard to Asdrubal Vec. I was a Dark Eldar player, and I loved running Drazahar with my Incubi, and he did that same kind of phase shift wherever you wanted to be at the beginning of the combat when you after all models have been moved. Place Drazahar wherever you want him in the battle. Like, yep, yes, I will.
Thank you.
Yep.
So many memories. All right, guys. Well, I think we about nailed this one. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me back, guys.
Oh, what an amazing time. I'm glad Kenny made it back, and Haspel is working double time to make up for LVO and missing all the work coming up for Adepticon. So can't wait to get him and hear all his juicy details of LVO and Sin City. So really excited about that.
Yes. Next week should be interesting.
Oh yeah, the boys are back. The boys are back. All right, y'all. Well, if you haven't done so already, make sure you head on over to longwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.